Hi guys, in this video we're going to look at resealing your fish tank and a step-by-step guide of how to do it. Whether your tank leaks or the silicone is old and brittle and discoloured, then the option is to remove the silicone seal and replace the seals with fresh silicone. Now this can appear to be quite a daunting task to undertake, but with this simple step-by-step guide I will show you what to do and how to prepare the job in hand, and how to achieve a tidy finished job too. First of all, you need the tank that is to be resealed. This tank right here is a project for a local school, and as you can see here, the seals, although watertight, are very brittle and are coming away at the edges, which would cause a leak in a short time, so they need replacing. The tank is also in need of a good clean too, but this ties in perfectly with this video, as the first thing to do before removing any silicone is to have the tank cleaned inside and out. Under no circumstances should you use cleaning products in your tank, as it can harm fish and plant life. A basic jug of hot water and a cleaning sponge will be perfect for the task. Simply scrub at the algae and stains on the glass. Don't worry about scratching the tank, as long as you don't use anything with metal on it or use too much force, it will keep the tank fine. After cleaning the glass, your tank should look something like this. Make sure to let it dry completely before doing anything, however. The next job then is to remove the offending silicone. It is important to note that it's not worth resealing one part. It's always best to reseal the whole tank rather than that certain area. Using a blade, simply run it along the bottom of a seal, as you can see here, paying particular care on making sure the blade sits flat with the tank, and just run it to the edge of the tank. Please note, it is worth putting a plaster on your thumb and fingers, or PVC tape, something to protect the ends of your fingers, as the blades are incredibly sharp and they will quite easily slice into your fingers. Do the same on the other side of the silicone to remove the bead. Do this along all the beads of a tank. Once you have done this all the way around, then you need to run the blade back over the edges to remove any excess silicone. The glass needs to be completely clean to ensure the silicone sticks best. It is a good idea to use rubbing alcohol to get rid of the final bits of residue too. Okay, now that you've cleaned all the silicone off on the edges, you need to get hold of a paintbrush. It doesn't really matter what size, the thicker ones are much better, I find. And then just brush away in all the corners, making sure there's no excess in there. Try and make sure that you leave enough of a gap to put your masking tape here. What you need to do now is assess how wide you want your bead. Now, being a school fish tank, I want this to be extra secure, so I'm going to have it a little bit wider than the average. So what I would do is you get your masking tape, and you would mark that down to leave a gap here. This should be what your finished product looks like. Granted, yours might be a little bit neater than mine, but luckily I've got clear silicone to use, so you won't really notice too much, and I'll tidy it up a little bit as I go along. What I will make sure to mention is that if you're going to use black silicone, which is becoming much more popular, it is an option I do like to use, but it just won't suit this tank. You do have to be extra careful how you set up all your masking tape to make sure the lines are perfect, because you will notice any imperfections, whereas the clear one tends to blend in with the glass. Right, now we move on to the resealing. What you'll need is some silicone. Try and go for the proper aquarium silicone, but if you're going to go to get it from most stores such as like B&Q or Wix, go for the silicone that is 100% silicone. Anything else is injected with mildew and mould resistant formula, which is like when you see on your bathroom, it gives it that colour and also stops it from going mouldy. You don't want that, you want 100% silicone. What you then need is a hacksaw. I'll show you why in a moment. And then of course you'll need the caulking gun. You need to cut the end off with a hacksaw and then take the nozzle and attach that to your silicone tube. Then what you need to do is determine the size of the bead that you want. So obviously bear in mind that my bead is quite large. You need to cut it as appropriate to give you your desired bead size. What you need to do now is point the silicone in the gun to where you need to start. Always start off on the corners. Make sure to use plenty of silicone in the corners to really seal it up, because obviously that's where one of the most points of pressure is. So all you need to do is squeeze it in there, and then you run it along. Once you've gone round all the edges with the silicone, obviously as you can see it's very messy at the moment, but that's not a problem at all. That's what we're going to tidy that. Right, what you need to do now is to tidy the silicone up. Now what you need here is clean fingers, nothing on there, otherwise it'll get stuck in the silicone. And you also need plenty of kitchen roll. Right, what you need to do is get your finger, make sure it's dry. I know some places say wet your finger, but I find it's not always the best idea because it tends to take the silicone with it. All you need to do then, take your finger, press it into the end, not too hard, and push the silicone into the seal. Now you'll find that you'll have a big blob of silicone left. It does look like there's a lot of waste, but that's absolutely fine. Try and wipe off as much as possible off your finger, and then go over it again, pushing it into that seal. You then need to repeat that along every seal, every seam. Once you've done all that around the whole tank, what you need to do next is remove the masking tape. Now it's important that you do this while it's still wet, because if you do it when it's dried, it's just going to rip the silicone straight off. You have to do it slowly to give it that straight, neat edge. Once you've finished and you've taken all the tape off and you've done your seal, it should look something like this. You've got a nice clean straight line. You can see the silicone's been pushed right into the corners. What you need to do now is obviously once you've got the whole thing done, it does say 24 to 48 hours to cure. It's best to leave it as long as possible. Now with this one, I'm going to leave it 3 days. That's going to give me enough time to get my stand finished. And then I will do the water test, which I will show you in an update video.